and the Asian Development Bank. Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I know today, the last day, you have been very busy, with the last 3 days, session, and you must be really enjoying all the presentation and discussions. And I hope this session will be also, very much interesting for all of you who are here today. My name is Masayoshi Ono. I'm a moderator for this session. I'm a senior transport specialist with ADB, but I'm based in Papua New Guinea. I don't know if you know where the Papua New Guinea is. It's an island country in the Pacific. I just would like to thank all of you who come into this session first. And we have 8 presentators with a lot of interesting topics. So I'm very much looking forward to this session. The order of this session is basically I'll call upon each presenter, and then they will make a presentation for 7 minutes, and we have a couple of minutes left for Q&A. So while each of them are making presentation, please listen, and if you have any question after the presentation, please feel free to raise your hand, come closer to the nearest microphone, and then raise the question to the presenter. Okay? Thank you very much. So I just would like to mention that this session will explore how innovation, technology, and collaboration with the private sector and beyond can help to translate transport priorities into practical implementation across Asia and the Pacific. The focus today is on approaches that support more sustainable, resilient, inclusive, and efficient transport systems through innovative technologies, business models, digital tools, and also the partnership framework. So over this next 90 minutes, we'll hear perspective from the private sector companies, international organizations, development partners, and also research institutions working across areas including AI and mobility analytics, electric mobility, cross-border logistics, maritime innovation, and sustainable infrastructure solutions. So I just would like to call our first speaker, Mr. Silas Borja-Gomari. He is the Chief Executive Officer and founder of the Sirmo and Mobility Vision Plus, who works at the intersection of mobility, urban data, and AI-driven analytics. Silas, please. Thank you. For each presenter, we have this device here, so when you want to change the slide, please point out to there's a small black device standing backside, so please press and then point it out. Not to this screen, not to this screen. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go. Hello. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be presenting Sirmo, basically what we're doing in helping the government, essentially. Actually, one thing that's interesting in our approach so far, I mean, we're not an old company like majority of the companies that are in this forum, but so far we've been successful with what we've been doing in the Philippines, and I just want to share what we've so far achieved. All right, so Sirmo just stands for Seer of which stands for mobility, somebody who can look into the future of mobility. And in this case, when we talk about AI-empowered transport and urban planning, that just basically means we inject AI wherever it's relevant, right? Not just another wrapper of ChatGPT or whatnot, right? So for the last 50 years, basically, one thing we've observed, especially I'm sure ADB, World Bank, and the financial institutions are very much familiar with, we don't necessarily lack studies, actually. We have tons of studies. What we lack is something that actually gets implemented. There are certain problems we've been trying to solve, especially in the Philippine context, for example, that we've had 10 studies, more or less 90% of the studies the same, but it never really gets over the hump of being implemented on the ground. So in Sirmo, we go from no data or fragmented data into something that's actually implementable. But the main challenge that we have that we need to solve is this, basically, right? The main issue we have, the reason we cannot get to the bottom line, to the bottom of this and get to implementation as quickly as possible is usually, if we look at the traditional process of how we deal with the mobility problem that we have, or even urban development problem that we have in developing countries, all boils down to just 3 components, right? First of all, I mean, the higher level is that planning takes forever, usually. Sometimes, for example, in the context of the Philippines, the election cycle is every 3 years, and even by the 2nd year, we still don't have any results. So how do we expect the decision makers to actually act on it when we only deliver the results when the next election actually starts, right? This is not in line with their priority mindset, So usually, if you break it down, it's because of the slow data collection processes, The analytics, which is done usually by external consultants, nobody really understands what we give to the government. And then at the end, when you have multiple consultants or different tools being used, nobody knows how to actually coordinate, and then you just submit a 900-page report that nobody ever reads. And in CIRMO, we basically speed up that process, right? Of course, here and there are some things we've changed dramatically, but at the end of the day, it's highly focused on speed and accuracy, right? We collect the data much more faster using whatever technologies that exist, whether it's we collect it through mobile apps, whether we use a video AI to count everything from pedestrians until tricycles, for example, tuk-tuks and rickshaws. And we connect all of that. Since we have full control of all of the data that comes in to the system, then it's so much easier to actually do the analysis, right? And it's a scientific level of analysis that even in certain aspects, it's even better than how I would do it manually, right? And the entire intention of this is once we get to the decision-making level, we can bring in all of the information together and look at it simultaneously, looking at the different goals that are important for the decision makers, right? The system, I mean, this is just a summary of how the system looks like. So basically, end-to-end, from data capture until what gets implemented on the ground, where we become partners of the local government. To be honest, many things in transport can be done by the local governments. Of course, we know it's not a secret that if we put up railways in any city, it's going to be tremendously beneficial. But how many more decades are we going to waste until something gets done on the ground, right? So within CIRMO, we go from end to end, from data until implementation. Actually, we're there step by step in the process to guide the decision makers all throughout it. So just to demonstrate what this is, basically anything we need to capture on the ground comes from the mobile app. If we want to assess the streets, if you want to conduct a walkability study, for example, we just teach anyone in the local government, even if they don't have that much technical skills. They go through a street, take the photos, and all of the AI just generates the walkability study by the end of the day. Usually that process takes about 3 to 6 months, depending on which consultant you talk to. And all of that is in one dashboard where the analytics is already tailored to how we would usually do it manually, but here, with the help of developing the pipelines behind the scenes, we just put together all of the analytics and let the computer essentially analyze it at incredible speed. And if you want to talk to your data, it's just one chat away. The capability of the system is highly focused on things that, as I mentioned, the things that actually implementable, right? All of the traditional stuff you can think about, whether it's public transport planning or optimization of traffic signals or whatnot, all of that we already cover. What's usually expensive to actually explain to the decision makers is why do we actually need accessibility to the train stations or to bus stations or, I don't know, tricycle or tuk-tuk stations, right? Usually those studies never really get any recognition, but to be honest, that's where the system starts, right? When you want to get to a place, the first thing you do is you have to walk, right? And all of these things now, with the help of the technologies that exist, we can speed up the process and we don't have to wait to be that hopefully some decision maker comes up and says, "Oh, that's interesting. Let's put our best foot forward within like 1 week," right? So for example, from curbside management, parking or whatnot, and public transport, all of that until recommending whether this street lacks shading, all of that is studied all together. It's every single detail that might be a loophole in our studies. We cover that to make sure when we have to defend it, against, I don't know, whether it's a national government or some other national agencies or even maybe like a local councillor, all of these small details have to be addressed. We cannot always just say, I've already done my job, it's up to them, how do they interpret it? Otherwise, we just get stuck in this cycle of doing exactly the same study, changing names on the report, but again, nothing really gets implemented. But the proven impact so far, one of the use cases we're very proud of is there was an urgent case to do a comprehensive road safety audit in Quezon City in the Philippines, where the Mayor Joy essentially asked on a Sunday night whether we can deliver something by Wednesday. And at the time, we hadn't even looked at how to develop a road safety assessment study. Because we update the system based on the priorities the decision makers tell us. So if that was a priority, we cut down the study time basically from 6 months to just 48 hours. And that includes everything that you need. We had 48 hours of traffic footage that was processed in like 3 hours. We already knew how many trucks go through this area, how many pedestrians go through this area, and we analyzed, we assessed all of the infrastructures issues that exist along that corridor. But most importantly, what we make sure of course, we're tech people, tech guys, and we want to speed up everything. But what thing we assure is that we go on the ground and check what the conditions are, right? Every locality, every street, even within the Philippines, the context could be very, very different. But if we're applying approaches, I worked in Germany for 8.5 years. So if I just bring that approach and slap it here in the Philippines, it's not going to work. And I'm sure many of you know that already. We've tried that. It just doesn't work because the context is different. Sometimes it's not even a technical context, right? It could be a fully administrative context. Because people don't appreciate, again, a 900-page report that they don't know how to go through the details of that. Usually we start with a 5-page report, maybe like 7 slides to show it to the mayor. And then we go from there, right? That's our checkpoint, whether what we're doing is actually relevant for these decision makers and local entities. But at the end of the day, the objective is make implementable projects and the budgets necessary for that easier to justify. That's it. It can be as simple as, hey, if you fix the sidewalk or the walk path on this road, put a crosswalk here, it's a start. You can show this to your constituents, essentially, and then maybe the next recommendation we give, they're going to accept it. Right? It's just trust building. It's a continuous process of building trust together with the government, but that we can do things together at a much quicker pace, which is aligned with their political goals in the long run. Right? So thank you very much. If you have any questions, we'd happy to, I can address some questions right now. Otherwise, you can approach me afterwards. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. This is really interesting. I'm almost ready to buy this probably, but here is my question. You made it so easy, but if maybe you could highlight where difficulties will be coming from, because I'm sure everything has a second face of the coin. So what is the flip of the coin?
So I think the most challenging part, I always tell this with any local government entity we work with, is really the data. In contexts like the Philippines, if you compare it, anyone from the Netherlands here? Like if you compare it to the Netherlands has a national data center where everything is sort of mandated to be uploaded, right? In the Philippines, that doesn't exist. None, like absolutely nothing. And usually it's very costly. So that's what we start with. And then once it gets to the analytics and how do we give recommendations, how do you translate that actually the normal staff inside the local government understands it, right? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who go meet the mayor every day. It's not us, right? So usually it's just understanding the local context of the local government in terms of how do they actually conduct plans, right? That's the most challenging part. The technical part, it's already been proven what works, right? What we lack is how do we translate all of these things into actual action. So again, the most complicated part for us is, for us at least, the approach in CRMO is really data, because when we say data-driven in CRMO, it means like millions of data, right? Like not because we conducted a survey and that's it, and then just simulate everything. So this is something, it's filling the gaps basically, right? On the right extreme, we have simulation, and the other extreme, we have zero data, and everything is just gut feeling, right? I think that's my time. If you have any questions, just approach me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saras. It was very interesting, and I think there's already a common problem with the data in many ADB DMC countries as well. So we really need to look at how best we can develop like what the Netherlands has. Maybe he can also share his experience from his countries as well. Otherwise, thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. And next presenter is Mr. Ira Cruz. He's from the Grab Philippines. Unfortunately, Bui is not available, but we have a friend from the Grab Philippines, and he'll talk about how that work closely with the public sector stakeholders on transport and urban mobility initiatives. Every time when I come to Philippines, because I'm based in Papua New Guinea in the Pacific, I always use the Grab, because it's very reliable, and we can trust that, as a public means of transport. The big buses and stuff, they're sometimes pretty challenging to get onto those. So yeah, please, Ira, come to here and just share your experience. Thank you.
Thank you for the endorsement, Ono-san. Okay, so if we can start with the first slide. Sorry, so okay, does that work? Nope. Okay, I'll just continue and perhaps the slides can catch up. So when we talk about mobility in Metro Manila and in more cities outside of Manila, one reality immediately becomes clear, that demand for movement continues to grow, but road space remains finite. And because of that, the challenge today is no longer simply about building more roads. Increasingly, it is about how we maximize the capacity of the infrastructure and vehicles that we already have, while giving people more reliable, affordable, and practical choices to move around the city. And this is where the private sector can play a meaningful role in introducing solutions. At Grab, we recognize that TNVS, or Transport Network Vehicle Services, is not and should never be seen as the sole solution to mobility challenges. Public transport will always remain the backbone of urban mobility. But we do believe that technology and innovation can help close the gap in the system, particularly areas such as first and last mile connectivity, reliability, convenience, and transport access. So one area that we've been focusing is on maximizing vehicle capacity. Historically, as I'm sure we all know, many cars in Metro Manila, or many car trips in Metro Manila, involve only one passenger per vehicle. So in a city struggling with congestion and limited road space, that is simply not sustainable in the long term. So one of the goals has been to explore ways to encourage shared mobility, allowing more people to move using fewer vehicles. And this is where products like, there you go. So this is where products like Group Ride, Grab Share, and Grab Sabay Sakay come in. Group Ride allows family members or friends heading in the same direction to share a single vehicle booking more conveniently. GrabShare, on the other hand, expands that concept further by allowing passengers traveling along similar routes to share rides with other commuters during select peak hours. And through our partnership, as Ono-san was asking earlier, through our partnership with the Department of Transportation, we also introduced Grab Sabay Sakay. Now, what makes this initiative interesting is that it's informed by mobility data and recurring travel patterns. So we've observed that many passengers are often traveling to similar destinations at similar times every day. So instead of moving those commuters separately using multiple vehicles, technology now allows us to group trips more intelligently and maximize existing vehicle capacity. That benefit here is twofold. First, it helps narrow the gap between commuter demand and vehicle supply, something especially important during peak hours. And second, shared mobility options can help lower transport costs for passengers while reducing the number of vehicles needed to move the same number of people. In other words, innovation is not just about convenience, it is also about efficiency. But innovation must also be localized. And one thing we've learned over the years is that mobility solutions cannot simply be copy-pasted from one city to another. They have to respond to how Filipinos actually move. And that is why we introduced GrabTrike. For many communities outside of major central business districts, tricycles remain an important part of everyday mobility. They serve as critical first and last mile transport, connecting people from neighborhoods to schools, markets, terminals, and main roads. So instead of ignoring that reality, we asked, how do we improve the experience while supporting existing local transport systems? And GrabTrike was designed as a localized and on-demand tricycle hailing service integrated into the Grab app. And the idea is simple, but very important. First, it introduces more transparent and predictable fares, helping reduce uncertainty and overcharging concerns for passengers. Second, it improves convenience by allowing commuters to book rides through the app instead of waiting in line or hailing units on the road. And third, it works together with accredited TODAs, or local government systems, instead of attempting to replace them. And I think that last point is important. Innovation works best when it complements and strengthens existing transport ecosystems rather than attempting to disrupt indiscriminately. And more broadly, I think it reflects very important principle in mobility that there is no single best mode of transport. A healthy transport system is one that gives people real choices, choices that are affordable, reliable, practical, and responsive to different mobility needs. Some trips are best served by rail, others by buses, active transport, shared mobility, motorcycles, or localized transport like tricycles. The real goal is integration. And that is why collaboration between government and the private sector matters. The government can set the direction, standards, and long-term transport strategy. The private sector, meanwhile, can help accelerate innovation, improve responsiveness, and test new solutions that complement broader public sector transport goals. At the end of the day, mobility is not just about moving people from point A to point B. Mobility is what allows people access to opportunities, jobs, education, healthcare, commerce, and community. So when we talk about innovation in transport, the conversation should not simply be about technology. It should ultimately be about how we create transport systems that are more inclusive, more efficient, and more human-centered for the millions of Filipinos who move through our cities every day. Thank you. Okay, cool. Oh.
What more do you would like to see from the government side to make your business more affordable, reliable for the mothers and public to make it happen at the company? Of course, it may be in competitive manner as well, but yeah, if you have any the humble request to the, to the government or how best that maybe you can improve the system you are already operating for the sake of the public.
Yep. So over at Grab, we have a specific focus on working with government. So we have a very healthy collaboration with our government counterparts, whether it's the national government or local governments, in creating and innovating solutions. So we're very happy at this point, in fact, that we've had so many opportunities to collaborate with government, some of which I've enumerated today. But we have other solutions as well that we're working with government, such as wayfinding. If you start looking over the EDSA busway, we've started installing wayfinding as well. On your Grab app as well, you can use immersive navigation, which means that on your Grab app, you should be able to find your way to the nearest EDSA busway station, and we're slowly rolling this down. So I guess the message is that we're very happy to work with government. We'd love government to approach us if there's anything that we can do, whether it's the national government or the local governments.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Era. Thank you very much again for your nice presentation. Okay, our next presenter is Grinda Baterina. I hope I pronounced your name properly. Yeah. She is the Deputy Executive Director of Clean Air Asia. She has extensive experience in clean air policy, sustainable transport, and climate mitigation across the region. So please welcome Grinda for her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to share Clean Air Asia's, and not only Clean Air Asia, but also e-mobility ASAP project's experience. I'm going to ask the people at the back to actually shift the slides for me to save on time. Okay, so today I will share the experience of the e-mobility ASAP project in developing business models to help scale electric public transport and logistics in the Philippines. The e-mobility ASAP project stands for accelerating the adoption and scale-up of electric mobility for low-carbon city development in the Philippines. This project is funded by the Global Environment Facility, implemented by UNIDO with DTI, Department of Trade and Industry, and the Board of Investments, and executed by Clean Air Asia with consortium partners like the Urban Electric Mobility Initiative, De La Salle University, and very importantly, the Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines. At its core, the project supports the Philippines' transition to low-carbon transport by addressing two key priorities. First, accelerating EV adoption and strengthening the local EV industry and enabling ecosystem. And this presentation will focus on one question. How do we move from good ideas and policy ambition to actual electric vehicles operating on the roads? Next, please. Thank you. The e-mobility ASAP project aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and air pollutant emissions in the transport sector by accelerating e-mobility adoption and supporting local industry development. In the Philippines, the need is very clear. Public transport remains a major part of daily mobility, but electrification is still moving a bit slow. There is strong market momentum for EVs, and national targets are ambitious. Under the roadmap, the Philippines targets 6.3 million EVs and 147,000 EV charging stations by 2040. But when we look specifically at public transport, the numbers remain modest. As of November 2025, there are only around 398 ePUVs operating across 36 routes under the Public Transport Modernization Program. This gap tells us that the challenge is not only about vehicle emissions, it is also about hastening the pace of public transport electrification. This is where the e-mobility ASAP project comes in. The project looks at the wider ecosystem needed to make electrification viable, not just the deployment of vehicles. Our work focuses on four key areas: enabling policy environment, development of viable business models, demonstration and deployment, and capacity building. So for this presentation, I will focus only on the second and the third areas, how we are developing business models and using deployment activities to test more practical pathways for scaling electric public transport. Next, please. Now, the project recognizes that the challenge is the slow pace of public transport electrification. So, transport cooperatives and operators are interested in shifting to EVs, but here are the barriers: high upfront cost of EPUVs, limited access to suitable financing, uncertainty around charging infrastructure, and operational risks in adopting the new technology. So the key message in this slide is that scaling EPUVs is not only a technology challenge, it is a financing and operations challenge. So what are we doing in response? The deployment approach we are doing has evolved to test financing models that can better reflect the economic realities faced by transport service entities. The project is looking at EPUV deployment across 6 local government units from 2026 to 2027 using different business models. For Manila, Marikina City, Antipolo, and Baras Rizal in the Philippines, the project will demonstrate a profit-sharing model. So these areas represent public transport corridors in highly urbanized and peri-urban settings where jeepneys remain essential for daily mobility, but where operators may not be ready to take on the full risk of purchasing EPUVs. Under the profit-sharing model, a private sector partner or vehicle provider helps finance or provide the EPUV units, while the transport co-op operates the vehicles. Now, revenues from the operations are then shared based on the agreed arrangement or percentage. For Bacolod and Iloilo City, the discussions are ongoing with LGUs in the implementation of the PTMP focus areas. In these cities, public transport modernization is already advancing, creating a stronger entry point for EPUV deployment. Now, I want to mention other business models we are going to test. The leasing model, for example, will be tested in Bacolod and Iloilo. So this is where a cooperative or operator does not need to purchase the EPUV outright. Instead, they lease the vehicle over a defined period. Now, another business model is the in-house financing model, where the vehicle supplier or private partner provides financing directly to the co-op or operator. So this is important because many co-ops, transport co-ops, face difficulty in accessing traditional bank loans due to collateral requirements, credit history, or perceived investment risk. Next slide, please. Yes. So, as I mentioned, the eMobility ASAP has started to implement the profit-sharing business model between EPUV suppliers and transport service entities. And so one partnership that has been forged is with eFuture Motors Philippines and the San Andres Transport Service Co-op in Manila. eFuture Motors will provide replacement of traditional jeepneys of around 50 EPUV units running along 2 routes in Manila. This is important because these routes operate in a competitive environment, meaning there are other traditional jeepneys running on these roads. So the project will show how better operations management, supplier participation, and project support can help improve the financial sustainability of EPUV operations. Another example is a partnership between Basic Jeep and Pamahod Transport Co-op. Basic Jeep is a supplier that will provide 100 additional EPUV units on top of the existing modern units of Pamahod, the transport co-op. This project will give an opportunity to compare the performance of ICE, Euro 4 modern PUVs, and EPUVs in a high-demand route by Pamahod. Next slide, and I think this is the last one. Yeah, so through this project, it's clear that private sector co-investment is essential to accelerate e-mobility for public transport. Under the profit-sharing deployment model, the project will provide around $450,000 in grant support for 3 EV charging facilities. This grant is targeted at one of the most important enabling conditions, which is charging infrastructure. Through the project, $9 million in private sector investment will be enabled, covering 150 EPUV units. I think that's it from my end, and I'm not sure if I have time for questions, but definitely myself and my colleague here, Granch Manibo, who's looking after deployment, will be here to answer any questions. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Winda. Maybe if anybody who would like to ask one question from the floor. Yes, please.
Thank you for your presentation. It's very nice. And so my question is that we are always keen on to introduce electric vehicles and the electrifications, but we are not focusing on the generation, the country's generation. So I would like to know about that. How much percentages from the renewable energy and how much from the fossil fuels from your country's generation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very good question. So under this project, we also have an indicator where we should be sourcing, we should be increasing renewable energy as the source of the electric vehicle charging station. So what we are doing is partnering with the Department of Energy under their GEOP program, which will allow the charging facilities to be sourcing their power from renewable energy. So we're very lucky that in the Philippines, we have the Department of Energy really championing renewable energy. And so this way, our project will be able to link up with RE suppliers to power the EV charging stations.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay, next presenter, we now like to welcome Mr. Ron Wan. He's the Chief Representative of the International Road Transport Union, Regional Office for East and Southeast Asia, with experience in cross-border transport and trade facilitations. Mr. Wan, please. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And a very good morning to everyone. So I think, and also thanks for ADB giving me this chance to sharing our ideas on this software connectivity. Let's see. Okay, so firstly, introduce myself. My name is Ran. I'm from the International Road Transport Union, IRU. So I think so we are the international organization on behalf of the interests of the road transport sector. So for now, we have over 170 members in 80 countries. So most of our members are the national road transport associations. So we IRU together with our associations to on behalf of the voices of more than 3.5 million companies on logistics and mobility. So IRU we established in 1948. So our headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. So for now, we have over 80 years experiences to drive the road transport industry development. So as I mentioned, so most of our members are the national road transport associations. And at the same time, we also have some members as the corporate members along the supply chain. We also maintain a very strong relationship with the UN, the United Nations, and the other international organizations and the regional organizations. So our vision is to ensure the road transport can be more safe, can be more sustainable and more efficient. So to deliver this vision, so we together with the World Bank, we also have some research and also have some so-called the traditional report. We spent several years to have this report, and also we developed some toolkits for the road transport sector reform. So here is the link. So if you have any interest on this guideline on the road transport sector reform, please feel free to download our report and the toolkit from our website. At the same time, to delivering our visions, to achieve our visions, to implement our visions, we also have some specific projects in the world. So firstly is the tier system, the tier convention. So I will share with you more details on it. It will focusing on how to enhance the efficiency of the transport, international road transport. The second is we also have our academy, RU Academy. We do the trainings and the certifications to the industry. And the third area, in the third area, we have the RU Green Compact. So for this area, we are focusing on how to make sure to push this industry decarbonization. So then I want to use most of my time to share with you one of our project is TIER. So firstly, what is TIER? So I think when yesterday when I participated in other sessions, I heard a lot of people share their experiences for the international transport. The key bottleneck, the key pinpoint point for them is when they go to the border crossing points, very complicated customs declaration procedures, and these procedures are different in each countries. So TIER, the aim of TIER is to solve this problem, solve this bottleneck. So firstly, TIER is a UN convention, it's the United Nations convention, and also it's a customs convention. So RU, we under UN's mandate to manage this system globally. And under TIER, so every customs in the every contracting party customs, when under TIER, they using the same procedures, using the same standard, using the same documentation to handling the transit declaration, and they under TIER, it can minimize the customs physical inspection along the route, along your journey, and in every BCPs. So, for example, if we start a TIER in Beijing, so Beijing Customs, in China, Beijing Customs will seal the compartment of the truck, and this seal, and the truck, if the final destination is like the Uzbekistan in Tashkent, so this customs seal will be opened only when the truck arrived in Tashkent, arrived in Uzbekistan. So that means when you go through all of these countries like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, or Tajikistan, when to the Uzbekistan, so every customs in the border crossing points will not open your compartment, so your cargo was safe. And also you can save a lot of the time at the border. So for now, we have some statistics. So for now, using TIER, it can save up to 92% transport time and up to 40% transport cost. So we have already 79 contracting countries of TIER convention. So I think if we're looking at the Asia and Europe, so most of the countries in these two continents are TIER contracting parties. The only missing part is here, the Southeast Asia. So I just want to share with you a story in China. So for the TIER development in China, so because I think today our topic is from the ideas to impact. So this is a good example how new idea grow up to a very strong industry. So you know China joined TIER convention in 2016. So TIER system established by RU in 1949. So I think China joined in a very late stage. But you know, after, especially after COVID, so there is a very strong growth momentum of TIER in China market. So for now, we have our tier transport companies. The volume have grown, I think 10 times larger in just 2 years. And when I joined RRU in 2018, there are only no more than 10 tier trucks in China. For now, the volume have reached out around 3,000 tier trucks. And every day, we have the tier open or closed in all of these, in more than 50 border crossing points and inland cities in China. And for now, we have already more than 100 tier routes connecting China with more than 30 countries. So this is also some pictures you can see. So I, together with my colleague, we established the tier green lane at the border crossing points in some major border crossing points between China, Mongolia, China, Kazakhstan, and also the border between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And at the same time, we also, with the support from the customs side, to establish the tier dedicated window, prioritization window in the major BCPs between China and Kyrgyzstan. So for now, tier already have very clear benefits in China side. One is it simplified the transit procedure. So all of the custom declaration procedures can be completed in the inland cities. And when the truck arrives at the border crossing points, no need to wait, and it can exit directly to save a lot of time and the cost. And at the same time, because the compartment is sealed by customs until the final destination, so the cargo can be safe. And also it can provide a very efficient services to the market. So for now, we also have some assumptions. What will happen if tier implemented in this region, in Southeast Asia? But I don't want to mention, to go to detail of all of these figures, because I think if without the concrete actions, everything only be the idea and cannot have the impact. So I just hope using my today's sharing as a kickoff point and for the tier expansion to Southeast Asia. And so this is my contact. If you're interested with tier or you have any questions, you can free to contact me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, the time is a bit behind the schedule. The moderator, I just have to I was told to stick to the time. So as Mr. Wang mentioned, if you have any questions or inquiry, please feel free to contact him even after this session or send an email to him. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Richard Van Leer, specialist in port development, inland waterways, and multimodal transport systems with experiences across several regions globally. So please welcome Mr. Richard Van Leer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ono, for the introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first explain something about data, because I'm from the Netherlands. Yes, we have, let's say, open source data also about our transport system by law, by the legislative framework. When there's an inquiry for transport studies or further efficiency improvements, the data that is publicly collected can be requested, and our government basically has to supply that data. Let's say on the wider note and wider implementation also in Europe, we have the Trans-European Transport Corridors, TEN-T. And there also we see that all research and development projects or implementation infrastructure where there's data collected, there's also data collected and then made visible in the TEN-Tech system. There's also an obligation with public financing, European financing, that you have to collect and share this data if there is no conflict with any privacy legislation. So also, let's say, from the perspective of financing and financing these kind of projects, there could be a requirement to collect data. Then moving on to the topic, going towards a port and this sustainable port development pathways in China, because that's where this technical assistance project is all about. From Nestra, Netherlands Export Group for Sustainable Transport and Logistics, together with Wuhan University of Technology and also the Waterborne Transport, China Waterborne Transport Research Institute, we have implemented the study approaching the end. And also with reference to the gentleman from CIRMO, I'm happy to report that actually our final report exactly consists of 900 pages. We did not start with 7 slides, but we will, let's say, end up with 7 pages, which is called the policy brief. And I will try to summarize also this project, this technical assistance project, in 7 slides or so. So please bear with me. Ports are critical nodes in the global supply chain. There's been quite some presentations about this week already. They connect production centers with international markets and enable trade, investment, and industrial development. And China's experience, especially over the past decade, shows how powerful this can be, especially by linking the ports with inland industrial regions through, let's say, integrated economic and transport corridors. Basically, China, by means of implementing that policy, also referred to as the Go West policy, created major economic spillovers, including the creation of jobs, tax revenues, manufacturing growth and power, and also regional integration. But if we look nowadays, the challenge is no longer to simply build economic corridors. The challenge is actually to create green and digital economic corridors that are seamless, efficient, resilient, and ultimately they have to be zero emission. This transition requires, in our view, more than infrastructure investment. It actually requires a policy framework that encourages innovation, mobilizes private capital, supports also collaboration between logistics, energy, technology, and industrial actors. Then ports at the center of the energy transition, and they are becoming, let's say, more central to this global energy transition, a central player. Ports, as we know, generate a lot of economic added value, but at the same time create an environmental and social impact. Large-scale terminal operators or industries based located in or close to the ports consume a massive amount of energy, and they put a pressure on ports in terms of transition towards cleaner and more efficient systems in line with global decarbonization goals. Well, this is actually the focus of this technical assistance project, supporting sustainable port development and moving actually towards zero impact operations. What is particularly interesting is in China is the speed at which ports are experimenting with innovation. And we are seeing the deployment of smart port microgrids focusing on energy conservation, production of renewable energy close to the port, but also electrification of thermal equipment, automated systems, and increasingly also zero-emission terminal operations. Actually, ports have become a test bed for scalable and financially viable clean technologies. And this transition towards sustainable technologies in ports is actually very visible in many of the Chinese ports today through the application of all kinds of sustainable technologies to reduce the environmental impact in ports, focusing on the reduction of noise, of waste, conservation of water and water reuse, and also improving air quality, for instance, in relation to dust control systems. And And then also ports are increasingly integrating renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and also even tidal energy solutions, and directly use this energy into port operations. Also, almost all of the berths nowadays in ports in China are equipped with shore power. Producing actually the renewable energy close to the ports and close to industrial users improves the business case, the economic case for introducing these renewable sources because it reduces the energy transport costs, minimizes also transmission losses that you may have, and also creates synergies between energy production and industrial demand. When we look at the long-term planning and sustainable, sustainable policies matter enormously. Governments can support through creation of standards, incentives, financial mechanisms, and also regulatory certainty, allowing also private companies to invest with confidence in new technologies and business models. Another key element is the use of pilot projects. China often tests innovation through demonstration projects and before scaling them actually nationally. Equally important is collaboration in so-called joint industry projects where innovation and research programs are coordinated between government, port authorities, energy companies, research institutes, universities, and also logistics operators. Looking ahead, and that is my last slide, ports are likely to evolve into integrated energy, industrial, and innovation platforms. As mentioned, renewable energy production is expected to move closer to industrial and port offtake markets to improve the business case for the adoption of new energy technologies and energy sources. Ports may also benefit from private investors that produce energy actually in the port area. Benefits can be based on fixed energy pricing or actually also application of revenue sharing models. Finally, ports are great test beds for testing new technology and business models. And there's quite a lot of examples for this in Shanghai, in Jiaxing, but also Singapore, Rotterdam, and many other ports. They illustrate how ports can also function as an innovation ecosystem by bringing together academia, startups, industries, and public authorities, and also facilitating this. And I think that is eventually particularly relevant for private sector participation. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. I know time is behind schedule, but if I may, if anybody would like to ask any question to Richard, it's okay.
All right.
If not, then please feel free to contact him later after this session as well. Thank you very much again.
Definitely.
Richard.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Iran. He's a country lead of the Oceania Center Philippines and maritime professional engaged in maritime safety, youth development, and also blue economy initiatives. Please welcome Iran. Thank you.
You can still see me, right? Awesome, fantastic. Right, so I would just like to preface this message with you guys imagining that you do not receive your Lazada, your Shopee purchases, or even your gas for your cars. Because that will be the core tenet of this presentation, looking at transport and maritime safety and sustainability. Right. Moving forward, let me just give you a background of what the Ocean Centers Philippines is about. It's one of the 7 country networks of the Ocean Centers. We have Brazil, India, Ghana, Kenya, and all the others, which is a project of the United Nations Global Compact, with the support of the Lloyd's Register Foundation. As you can see here, our core tenet resides on safety is not a cost. It is a catalyst. Integrating maritime safety into sustainability frameworks unlocks bankable blue economy opportunities across the Philippines. Now you can see me that I'm wearing my seafarer uniform. I'm actually a third officer by profession. So this opportunity to be speaking in front of you is both a passion and an advocacy work. Now moving forward, let's just see, this will be the core of my presentation. We'll be looking at the blue economy imperative, why it's important for the Philippines and the ASEAN as a whole to be involved, as presented a while ago in the ports. We'd also be looking at reframing risk as opportunity. Let's align, because right now I have been made aware that there are several funds within the ADB portfolio that can be aligned with the maritime. We'd also be looking at some call to actions related to maritime transport. Now let's dive deep into that. First, so why do we have to invest in the Philippines? First and foremost, because we are 7,641 islands as of date. We also an ASEAN maritime leader, being I don't have to preach to the choir here, but we know how essential it is for the Philippines to be part of the decarbonization, which has been initially been discussed. There are gaps. This presentation that I've been giving is actually a part of the 8 national workshops that the Ocean Centers Philippines conducted over the past 12 months. Now just looking on shipping and ports and finance for the purpose of this discussion. We also looked at safety as the structural the risker. Now, oftentimes, and I'm glad that maritime has been focused in this discussion, because we found out that finance often is terrestrial or land-based. Even the policies is mostly on terrestrial. Even the president now is, at least, we're looking at maritime as a policy direction. We have POMC, Presidential Office for Maritime Concerns. Maritime Marina is also spearheading several initiatives. And we'd look at ADB as the catalytic partner for this. Moving forward, why should safety be a bankability lever? Safety standards reduce risk premia. There are, as has been discussed earlier, green port initiatives, and Philippines would be there are partners of the Ocean Centers who are already pioneering, like the International Container Terminal Services Incorporated. Digitalization eliminates corruption risk, as mentioned earlier by CRMO. Safety integration into financial instruments, private-public partnerships, and safety as a shared value signal. For us in the Ocean Centers, there are 4 strategic opportunities for safe blue growth. We're looking at regulatory digitalization that has been discussed in several of our workshops. We also looked at green port modernization, because oftentimes one of the gaps in the Philippines is the otherwise dilapidated ports in the Philippines. Blue tourism and renewable synergies, advanced maritime research and development, PPP, especially search and rescue as part of safety. A skilled workforce pipeline. It may not be known to many that the Philippines is one of the highest seafarer supplying country in the world. In fact, we contributed over the past, if I'm not mistaken, 5 years, 1.93 trillion in sea-based remittances. There is a multiplier effect that every 1 peso that the seafarer remits becomes 3 peso in the economic of the Philippines. So there is an imperative for a skilled workforce from seafarer to those also in the fisheries. So for us in the Ocean Centers, I'll just be going forward because aware of the time. The sector matrix, the Ocean Centers focuses on 4 key priority areas: shipping and ports, fisheries and aquaculture, offshore renewables, and finance and investment. So for this presentation, let's look at shipping. So again, digital regulatory overhaul, ports requiring green certification, fishing and offshore renewables, aquaculture on high-end value yield, SAR, and then of course, cross-cutting everything, digitalization, gender, and social and economic, of course. Next, so since our partners here are coming from banks, perhaps let's look at some of the challenges in bankability and finance. So mentioned, land-based, slow procurement, the bureaucracy within the Philippines hinders the seamless transition for our fishers, especially for our domestic ferry operators. opacity in fund allocation, safety gaps, structural barriers, and the opportunity is for us to reframe risk as a bankable entry point. So some recommendations, because we cannot just discuss challenges, since the idea of this is from ideas to impact. On the Ocean Center's perspective, these are some ideas that we have. First and foremost, we already have the Maritime Industry Development Plan. Now let's operationalize that into having a Maritime Industry Development Fund. Green port certification, of course, blended finance structures together with our partners, safety-linked insurance products, especially with what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. The insurance costs of the ships there skyrocketed. PPP mechanism for SAR assets, and as well as digitalization as bankability lever. Now these are our call to actions for you guys. Moving forward, if there may be interest, let's co-develop, co-implement, and co-create a Maritime Industry Development Fund for the Philippines, underwrite Blue Insurance Framework, which can be anchored in the Blue Finance Working Group, sponsor green port certification programs, structure SAR-linked PPP transactions, and commit capital to the next 90-day pipeline. This is part of, I hope, not 900-page report that we're also drafting in the Ocean Centers, because that's one of the the final output that we are supposed to gather by July. So this is just a brief preview of what's going to happen for the Ocean Centers. And finally, on my last slide, these are our priorities to action, given that it's the theme of this year's APTF. Safety is the foundation of bankability. It should be integrated, not different. There are 6 sectors, 6 investment entry points, as mentioned for our focus. Shift the financial architecture now, and Ocean Centers, and let's connect together. I guess that's my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Any question from the floor? Those who have been, especially in the safety side, I guess? No? But if you have anything later, please have a chat with Ryan after this session. Otherwise, thank you very much. Okay, moving to the next presenter. Now let us welcome Mr. Matthew Farah from Canada, where he works on the development of electrical hydrofoiling boats. It's something I hardly hear this word, but that's very interesting. And also the ferries in the Asia-Pacific region. So his presentation will introduce electrical hydrofoiling passenger vessels, including the technology behind the platform and operational experiences from the live deployment in Sweden. Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Marcel. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. Gladly here to present you not the future of maritime, the real what is here now. So as you can see, it's not just a regular conventional ferry that you can see across the globe. It's actually a flying boat, and I literally mean flying. Behind the technology, there is obviously some things behind it. We have wings under the water that act as lifting the boat out of the water, so it's the same technology as an airplane does, but it really gives us that edge over conventional ferries and also an edge over regular electric ferries that are in the world right now operating. A little bit to our purpose. We started 12 years ago with one mission, and that is to speed up the transition to fossil fuel-free lakes and oceans. So when we look at this picture, I think that really represents how it is in Bangkok, where I am based, or probably also here in Manila, where the roads are super congested, and we have a blue highway next to it that is really underutilized. I think this problem, or this image on the left, then also shows what is the problem actually with waterborne transportation, and that is the element itself, water. It's super dense, so you need a lot of batteries or big engines to push a boat forward. What we do with hydrofoiling is taking it out, so we really reduce the drag, and therefore it's a much cleaner and much more efficient movement to push a boat forward, and also then in that case we can save energy up to 90%. We started 12 years ago. We still call ourselves a startup, but we've been around for over a decade now. We started more in the recreational world, but then since 2023, we shifted more to a commercial business. And since 2024, we're actually in public operation, fully integrated in Stockholm, and also accredited by the DNV Classification Society, which is one of the highest classification societies in the world, doing mostly cargo ships, but also passenger vessels. So that really is a rubber stamp for our technology, that it is proven and safe to use. Quickly to our tech trinity. So we have our pop motors, the hydrofoiling technology, which are active wings, and then also the flight control system, which is basically just hundreds of thousands of lines of software that keep the boat stable at all times during our flight. All around the vessels, we have 40 patents, and everything is in-house developed apart from the battery, which we know that is a big boy game, and other companies can do that better than we do. But then also our 3 E's, economy, environment, economy, and experience. We're fully battery powered, so we have 0 direct emissions. Also, there's no air, noise, or water pollution because we don't have any coolants or oil on board. Hydrofoiling has another characteristic that we can actually reduce the wake, which is a huge problem when we talk about inland waterways, especially rivers. It's really costly to constantly reinforce the shoreline, so we can reduce that also by up to 95%. And then what I mentioned, the reduced energy consumption, which leads me straight into the economical part. So reduced energy consumption, and going already in the first place from combustion engine to electric reduces that, but then doing it with hydrofoiling combined, and if so, also possible then with renewable energy, we can really see the energy costs lowering by up to 90%. Less moving parts in the engine mean also less cost there. And also that's a big game changer. We only carry less than 400 kilowatt batteries. That means also we don't need any megawatt charging infrastructure. So it's just a general DC car charger that you see in any shopping mall or any highway. Last but not least, the experience. Since we're flying above the waves, there's no slamming, there's no bumping. People cannot really get seasick. So throughout the journey, it's very smooth. And also then very fast at 25 knots and 40 nautical miles range. We follow a bit more of a different kind of approach to regular shipyards. So the customer doesn't come to us and says, I want a boat that's 20 meters long, this kind of engine, this interior. It's more of a standardized platform where you see from other companies in Sweden like Scania or Volvo, where we can build almost anything on top of our technology. Here, the shuttle, which is our public transport version, business and Voyager, a bit more hospitality applications, for port operations, crew transfer vessels, cargo, or then again for hospitality, a semi-open version. But let me jump into it a bit more about our actual use case in Stockholm that we have been doing in cooperation with the region of Stockholm, which is the local government, and then Trafikverket and LSL, which is the national and the local transport authority, and then also our operator in Stockholm was Transdev, which is one of the largest operators worldwide. The status before the NOVA project, we have been looking at the route from Eckerö into the city center by car, by the regular ferry. It takes 50 minutes to do that. And by waterways with the Candela, having speed exemptions because we actually don't create any noise and also no wake, we were able to do that in just 25 minutes. So we were cutting the commuting time in half. When we look at the current ferries that are operating, you see the top boat, which is built in 1968, and the bottom one in 2019. They still look very similar, but are actually very polluting, very still old technology with combustion engine boats, and very big. So the average occupancy in this route is actually only at 19%. Our outcomes from our 2-year project, this year we're going out into the archipelago where there's an off-grid connection, so that's the next challenge, how do we power the boats there? But when we look at the numbers, we were reducing the energy consumption per passenger by 66%, the CO footprint also by over 90%, and then also the clean air measurement was almost reduced by almost 100%. Passengers were really, really happy to be on such a cool boat, but also the positive experience stems from cutting the commute time, but then also other benefits as real estate was actually increasing in that region because the commuting, the public transport access to this suburb is increasing. And also we were able to increase the ridership by 2.5%. Technology as such is, of course, then also attracting new passengers. Of course, it's a pilot project, so a lot of people wanted to try it. But we did a research with the local university in Stockholm, and we've seen that we can actually increase the demand for this kind of operation by over 300%, and we had an average occupancy of 80%. So we're actually able to fill the boats throughout the day and not just at peak hours. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very interesting new technology presentation. That maybe I will just open the floor for the question. Yes, please. Can you come closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you also for insightful presentation. Just one question. Can you please elaborate on if the disposal of the batteries and how the disposal is structured within your pillars, environmental strategies? Do you see it as your responsibility or keep it for the end users? Thank you.
So that doesn't sit with the operator or the end user or the buyer of the vessel. That will actually go back to the battery manufacturer, and they will recycle the batteries for its second life use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other question? One more? It's okay. Yes, please. Yeah, I'm been shown the time's up, but maybe I'll add one more question, please. Thank you. Please.
Hi, good morning. Just, did you do also some studies, for example, on its viability in, let's say, countries like the Philippines, where typhoons and climate change is really a big impact? So, for example, we know there's a lot of opportunity for this type of technology being adopted here, but I think the key risk is really climate change and climate resilience. Did you do some studies, or do you think it would be viable in this part of the world, if ever? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Most definitely it's viable in this part of the world. I am based out of Bangkok, looking after the whole region, and we've seen a lot of demand from the Philippines as well, here in Manila, but also in on your 7,641 islands. I believe I got this right. I've heard this number many, many times this week. So I think there's a lot of applications throughout the nation of the Philippines, but in the broader APAC region as well. Regarding typhoons, we're obviously not a big cargo ship that can cross the Atlantic or the Pacific. So in rivers, in inland lakes, in bay areas like Manila Bay, Laguna, it's the perfect condition for us to operate throughout the year. So there's no concerns in terms of safety and also in terms of climate change, that because we do not really have an impact on that as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Morris, again, for your very interesting presentation. Thank you. Okay, time is coming up, but we have our last but not least, our final speaker, Joyce Rivera. She's the Transport Policy Advisor at the GIZ Philippines, working on sustainable transport and policy initiatives. So her presentation, Living Labs, Shaping the Tracks to Transformation, will explore how collaborative testing environment and locally driven initiative can support sustainable transport innovation and inform broader policy development. Let's welcome Joyce. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So I am Joyce Rivera. I am a transport policy advisor under the Transcend project here in the Philippines. It also serves as the IKI interface project here in the Philippines, and we have 5 components, not just about transport, but we also work on biodiversity, urban EBA, MSMEs, and governance. And in transport, we do want to have at least 3 living labs here in the Philippines and at least 1 launched today. So how many of the innovations are actually co-created solutions? So that's what Living Lab is. It's testing user-centric solutions in real-life setting involving the quad helix, not just through consultations, but through actual collaborations. First, private sector. The Solutions Plus project is known to collaborate with startups and companies for e-mobility. That was also done in India, where Gumil and GIZ India and Bosch launched a public charging station that integrated Second Life EV batteries. Next, Academe. So Academe is in charge of R&D. We have lots of studies, theses, dissertations. And again, in India, the Gumil stayed as a platform for collaboration with the Indian Institute for Science. Okay, next, of course, we will need the buy-in of our political partners. We have conducted consultations with both the national and local government to ensure that we are aligned in most parts. It was done by GIZ Thailand for their city labs. The GIZ India partnered with the Department of Urban Land Transport. Us, GIZ Transcend, just presented our proposed living labs with the Department of Transportation. And of course, people. We actually call it PPPP, Public-Private People Partnership. So last December, GIZ, together with UN Habitat and the Iloilo province, launched a design studio. Women, elderly, the vulnerable group actually pointed the pain points in their journey and brainstormed for potential green transport solutions. Then this design studio actually stayed in the capital so that Ilonggos and the general public can still provide inputs for a month. In Cagayan de Oro, we have conducted consultations through our partner ICSC with children and youth. So we asked children to actually draw or map their journeys from home to schools. One is actually a girl as young as 9 years old. And yes, well, these visuals are all in colors. It's not all about happy moments, but sometimes about tiring commutes. So these children are youngsters, but they are also commuters and potential co-creators. The same was actually done in GIZ India for the Safe Routes to School project. In India, 88% of the pedestrian accidents resulting to child fatalities actually occurred within 250 meters from the schools. So because of that, GIZ India, together with the government and Sensing Local and the school, implemented this project. Of course, there were consultations with the school and the students. Living Labs is all about inclusivity. This project promoting accessibility for the visually impaired actually involved in the earliest stage the identification of cohort of 300 PVI users and have conducted user training together with the actual users. And what about the general commuters? Of course, Living Labs can also work with the general public. And this is a bus up in Kalaburagi, India. So this one was developed together with the Academe and a startup using bus data and user data so that users can use it for journey planning, for service planning as well. Doing city labs or living labs is actually not an easy project. It is actually not a project, but it's a process per se. So you can see here various activities from 2024 to 2026. It involves lots of consultations, validations, negotiations, and when you actually implement, it's a lot of iterations. And there is no single intervention to be implemented in everything. One size doesn't fit all. Yes, living labs can be scaled up and replicated, but there will always be adjustments. Because basically, Living Labs is about localized, targeted solutions. So what is our problem now? Maybe we are talking about energy crisis, its impact on transportation. Maybe in other areas, it's not about that. Maybe we are exploring constructive demand destruction, but maybe we are just exploring also further the avoid, shift, and improve framework. During the pandemic, of course, our main problems are about accessibility and the availability of transport. Then, TUMI actually launched the COVID challenges. So these are among the initiatives launched worldwide. And I think, of course, there are also lots of other pandemic initiatives that are now regularized into regular programs. And I think just December last year as well, we have launched the UN Decade of Sustainable Transport. So maybe we can frame the problem as general sustainability. We are indeed in a climate crisis, and it's not just about the climate commitments, but actual solutions implemented on the ground by committed people. The NDC-TIA project actually not just worked to promote more ambitious targets, but also highlighted multi-stakeholder participation and women empowerment. And actually, just yesterday, we have launched the Women on the Move Philippine Network here in the Philippines. GIZ, Transcend, and GIZ projects in general is all about changing transport. So I do hope you are also with us on this one. You can find more about our projects and the other projects in India and Thailand in changingtransport.org. So the expert team database is also there and my contacts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Any question from floor for her presentation? Okay. Yes, please. Oh, yes. I thought yes. I thought you have a question. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay. So thank you very much, Joyce, for your presentation. I just thought we were looking at this e-vehicles introduction promotion. Yesterday, there was a session that by the ATO showing the data. There's a huge need for the finance for the infrastructure, especially for transport. But when you look at actual investment in the e-mobility, is the very least among all the needs for the transport, the sector financing, including ourselves, ADB. We are talking about more on the infrastructure for the road and bridging, but not necessarily looking at the mode of transport itself. So I hope that this session can also enlighten us, including myself, that how best we also need to pay more attention to this area of the transport to contribute to the decarbonization. Otherwise, I'd like to also thank you again to all the speakers for sharing these diverse perspectives and practical experience on innovation and private sector engagement in transport. Today's session actually highlighted a very different range of the approaches from AI and digital tools to electrical mobility, maritime innovation, and cross-border logistics that can support more sustainable and inclusive transport system across the region for the Asia and Pacific. And I'd like to also thank all of you who are here this morning to come together here to listen to the interesting presentation. And we really hope that this session has provided a useful ideas and example that can help inform future collaboration and the implementation effort collectively together who join here for this Transport Forum 2026. Thank you very much again for coming to this session. Thank you. Sorry, all the presenters, may I ask you to come to the stage so that we'll take a group photo. Thank you.
Joyce has already left.
No. Yesterday.
You're based in Geneva? Or?
No, based in Beijing.